My name is LaTanya Walker. I'm from Stafford County, Virginia, and I'm a victim of civil court abuse, criminal court abuse, and law enforcement abuse.
You're on now, so I'm just going to let you tell your story. Start wherever you like, whichever of your stories you want.
Okay. Let's see here. I guess my story begins in October of 2009. My youngest daughter, who was 15 at the time, had gone to a football game at the local high school to watch my son, who played varsity football, play against a rival school. And at the end of the football game, on the way out to the parking lot after the game, my daughter was with 2 or 3 of her girlfriends, and people were rushing, trying to get to their cars, and there was a gentleman with a passenger who pulled up and acted as if he was going to hit the girls as they walked across the parking lot. And the girls, turned around, shouted at him, said, you better not hit us. And he stopped his vehicle at that time. He then put his foot on the accelerator and hit my daughter. My daughter fell over to the side, and, I'm sure she said a few choice words. She was 15, and you just hit her with your vehicle, which was an SUV, and she's 5'2", 115 pounds at that time. And my daughter and the other girls said that the driver laughed hysterically while his adult passenger just smirked, while he then drove off and left the school parking lot. The principal of the school, assistant principal, and the witnesses got the license plate information, and there were already officers who were on site because it was a little ruckus earlier in the evening with some boys. So they were already on site, so they got over to my daughter really quick, and the ambulance was dispatched. I got there pretty much as they were loading her into the ambulance. I arrived, and an officer came over. First, I ran to the ambulance to make sure she was okay, because I only got a phone call from a friend of hers that said my daughter had just been run over by a vehicle at the school. So I get over there, and the officer, his name is Deputy Irizarry, he comes over to me and he says, they're gonna transport her. She keeps asking for you. So I go and calm her down and let her know that her brother's gonna ride in the ambulance, and I'm gonna take the truck and we'll meet at the hospital. I got Deputy Irizarry's information. He got the witnesses' names and the license plate number, and he said he'll be in touch with me. I said, okay. I went to the hospital. My daughter had, her knee was knocked out of socket, and she had, quite a bit of bruising to her thigh and her leg because she's short and the SUV set up kind of high, so it hit her mid-body, and she was pretty banged up, pretty banged up. So I got her home. She was on, they did the x-rays, nothing was broken, but I got her home and got her comfortable, and this happened on a Friday, October the 9th. Saturday, I tried to contact Deputy Irizarry and just got his voicemail. Sunday did the same thing. Monday, same thing. Finally, Tuesday, I called the police department and just started pushing buttons, trying to get to whoever else. And I asked, what was going on with the the case, the hit and run of my daughter at the high school. Was the person arrested yet? Where are we at with this? And I was told that the deputy that took the case had a family emergency and he was not going to be available. And there was no one else who was looking into the case. So Wednesday morning, maybe early afternoon, late morning, I received a call from Deputy Irizarry, and he apologized and said that in fact he had a family emergency, and we discussed, what I knew from what my daughter had told me. He asked me to have my daughter write out a statement, get some pictures of her injuries. He was going to come by after he goes and speaks with the gentleman, because he had his information. He had the license plate. And he said he would be by to get my daughter's statement and take it from there. I explained to him, that my daughter said that the man laughed about this and then just pulled off from the scene. So, and he said, okay, well, no, don't worry, Miss Walker. I will have an arrest by this evening. That was Wednesday. Thursday morning, I received another phone call from Deputy Irizarry, and he said to me, Miss Walker, I'm not quite sure what happened. I did go out and speak with the gentleman. He said that, yeah, he may have hit her, but he didn't think he injured her. And he said, I went over to the Commonwealth Attorney's office to get the proper paperwork for a warrant, because at this point we're almost a week later. And the Commonwealth Attorney told him to tell me to take it to civil court. There was no criminal matter here. That nothing had been done criminally, and take it to civil court. So of course that wasn't okay with me. So I got in the vehicle and went straight to the courthouse, because I wanted to find out who would make this decision and why. So I go into the Stafford County Courthouse, and I go straight to the Commonwealth Attorney's office. And I had already explained to Deputy Irizarry that, as a parent, if this were your child, you would do what you would have to do. And he understood. I mean, he really understood. He said, you do what you have to do. I said, not a problem. So I go to the Commonwealth Attorney's office, and I go to the front desk, and I tell the lady who I am, and I ask to speak to the person that made the decision not to arrest this person that ran my daughter over. She tells me, we didn't make that decision. That came from the Sheriff's Department. I said, okay. I then went back, got in my car, and went over to the Sheriff's Department, and they sent a lady out, a sergeant out, Sergeant Moran, out to me. And we went into a room, and I told her what my daughter said happened. I said, where are we with this? She said, well, that's not our decision. We can only go arrest them if they issue a warrant for him. I said, okay. I go back over to the Commonwealth Attorney's office, which is in a totally separate building. And when I got back over there, you would have thought I had committed a crime between going from one office to the Sheriff's Department, because I was spoke to as if I had just committed somebody's crime. And the lady told me that no, she didn't have to give me any information. I asked to speak with the person who made the decision. She went back there, came out, and said, he's not speaking with you. I said, well, can I get the name of the driver who ran my daughter over? We have medical bills and, things that are going to be coming up with this. No. Have your attorney contact the Commonwealth Attorney's office. Okay. So I left. I I went straight to an attorney friend that I had in Fredericksburg, Jack Harris. And he's been there probably a good 30 plus years. So he's very familiar with Stafford. So I told him what happened, and he said, okay, I'll take this for you and try to handle it. I said, okay. I filled out all the paperwork for him to get the requests over there to them. And they sent, maybe it was about 5 or 6 days later, they sent Mr. Harris a 1-page incident report with the names blacked out in black ink marker, so you couldn't even see the names. And on the top of the incident report, it says hit and run.
I'm Angelique Colbert-Bryan, and I reside in Spotsylvania, Virginia. The purpose for me being here today is to redress the Criminal Street Gang Code of Virginia. My concern is that the Criminal Street Gang Participation Code of Virginia is vague and also overbroad. And I'd like to tell you, in its plain language, Virginia Code 18.2-46.2 prohibits the conduct of any person who actively participates in or is a member of a criminal street gang, and who knowingly and willfully participates in any predicate criminal act committed for the benefit of, at the direction of, or in association with any criminal street gang. The plain language fails to specify the manner in which a person might be a participant rather than a member of a street gang. Additionally, the statute fails to specify with clarity what benefit of, or direction of, or association with means. These definitions are essential as they describe the conduct that the finder of fact is to recognize as illegal conduct. The statute is completely devoid of any discussion or guidance about how predicate acts are to be introduced to a jury. And it is overbroad in that Virginia Code 18.2-46.1 and 46.2 is overbroad in that on its face it prohibits association or participation among persons who may or may not have been convicted of a predicate criminal conviction. In seeking to prohibit contact among alleged gang members, it fails to distinguish between the member or someone who merely associates with the member in a lawful manner. I liken this to myself. I have been charged with criminal street gang participation. My grandsons have been convicted, and because I am their grandmother, and because I have stood up for their rights, because I know these boys, and I know they're not gang members, I now have been targeted, and I have also been charged with criminal street gang participation. So I would like this statute to be redressed, because I feel that it has such a broad sweep that anybody, including the Boy Scouts, anyone could be included in this melee. Thank you.
With injury. Right. So, he said to me, Mr. Harris said, he had never received paperwork back from them that was that scarce and didn't have any information. So again, we're 2.5 weeks into this now, and I still don't have the name of the guy who ran my daughter over in the parking lot. And she's still 2.5 weeks later is at home on crutches and on bed rest. She was actually on crutches for a total of 6.5 weeks. She was a cheerleader. She played softball. She like was kind of like the school mascot. She all had all the, she would dress up and paint her face and school spirit leader. And she was also on the homecoming court that was coming up very shortly. She was one of the participants on the homecoming court. So we got nowhere with that. Mr. Harris asked me what did I want to do. I said, well, I'm not quite sure. I'd like to find out who this person is. And at that time, Mr. Harris said to me, well, you can take this and run it through your homeowner's insurance. I said, Mr. Harris, that's not what this is about. I said, at this point, we're only 3 weeks into this. I don't know exactly what long-term injuries my daughter will suffer from. I don't know anything. This man ran my daughter over in a school parking lot, laughed about it, and left the scene as if nothing had happened. There are multiple crimes that have been committed here. So I just wasn't happy with what he said to me, and I said I was going to try to pursue it a little bit more myself. So the coming weeks, the holidays were coming, Thanksgiving was coming, Christmas was coming. So I started trying to check around and see if I could find an attorney that would help me with the approaching the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, because they had totally shut down any kind of communication, even between myself and Deputy Irizarry. They pretty much told him, do not deal with me anymore, even though I would see him at the football games, and because he was a school resource officer, and we would speak, cordially to outside of his profession, but they told him, as far as the case is concerned, do not talk to me about anything. So around January, I started emailing different organizations. I emailed first of all, I filed a report with Internal Affairs and with the local sheriff's department, just to get it rolling, the ball rolling. And they sent me a gentleman by the name of Lieutenant Patrick Kelly, and we were to meet. I said, that's fine. I said, we can meet, but I want to meet you at the library, and I'm going to videotape and audio tape everything. I got an email response back from him.